Meet us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Google+. Hey guys, meet Blackberry Classic. This is their latest phone from their lineup, and this, obviously from its name, has a classic look of the Blackberry, including the bar over here. This is Phil from Untitled.com, and this is the Blackberry Classic. On the top, there's a receiver along with the 2.1 megapixel front-facing camera, Blackberry logo on the top, and 720 by 720 resolution display. So 3.5 inches of a display, and this is slightly bigger than the one from the Q10. And there is a little bar over here with a lot of keys, talk and menu back, and the optical trackpad on the center. Now this is finally back because the Q10 and the Q5 were obviously the Blackberry Passport, and the full touchscreen devices like the Z10 or the Z30 didn't have one. And it's finally back for the Classic, and we're really glad to see that. Beneath that is a classic keyboard. It's got a full QWERTY keyboard with the arch likely look over here. That's a lot handier to use when you're typing on your finger, with your thumb mainly. And this is a classic Blackberry keyboard, so there's nothing surprising to it, but it's just there. To the right with the volume rocker and the assistant key, to the top power key, earphone jack, with the left side with the nano SIM card tray and the micro SD card tray. To the bottom is a pair of speaker and the micro USB port. To the back has an 8 megapixel camera with the LED flash, classic logo, and the Blackberry logo, and that's pretty much it. The battery cover is not detachable, so that's going to be a little bummer for those of you who want to replace your battery here and there. But on the upside, it has a very solid battery cover. It's got a rubberish coating, so it's not getting much of the scratches. And it has a very premium looking feeling, and I really like the way it feels on my hand. So one of the best parts of the Blackberry Classic that I really liked. Alright, to the system. It has mainly two ways to unlock the screen. You can swipe bottom to up, or you can use your keypad type U and the enter key. So this is the Blackberry OS 10. It's called the BBOS 10, and it's been introduced for a long time, and now it's getting better and better. Alright, so system-wise, it's a BBOS, so it obviously runs only BBOS 10 apps. But there were not much of the developers left for the BBOS 10 world because they were gone for the iOS or for the Android. So BlackBerry had brought a solution, so to say, is to run Android apps. And the native apps itself is actually pretty cool. It's very smooth, and it's rarely a sluggish operating system. Whichever you would go, it would be flawless. So got a very neat icons here and there. But the thing is, there's not really much use to it. Aside from the phone and messaging that you can't avoid using, I found myself using most of the Android apps for the most of my time. Alright, so aside from the BlackBerry native apps that barely has a use, we'll jump right into the Android apps. Alright, so it's based on the Android 4.3 for now. They're actually planning to upgrade it to Android KitKat, but that's what it's called. This is called the Android Player. So it runs Android apps, so it's like a mini Android built into your BlackBerry. And it runs almost most of the apps flawlessly. So let's start with the Pages Manager. That's what I use for managing the Undercaged page on Facebook. It takes a little time. We know that the Pages Manager is a little bit of a heavy app on its size, but it takes a little bit more time than it's supposed to. Mainly because first, it's not a native Android app, not a native Android device, but secondly is because it's got a Snapdragon S4 processor. What is the Snapdragon S4 processor? That is what you found on the BlackBerry Q10. And for 2 years, there hasn't been much of the upgrade. This is a little shame because we found the BlackBerry Passport with Snapdragon 801 and 3 GB of RAM with the top-notch specs in the Android market, how well and smoothly it runs Android apps. The other apps are actually quite the same. The thing that I found was Chrome. Chrome is what I use for my web surfing mainly because because the native BlackBerry app doesn't really run, the native BlackBerry browser isn't exactly the smoothest browser in the world, and it takes a little time to launch the Chrome, and the app itself runs pretty slowly too. So that's a little problem. Most of the apps, including say resolution dependent apps, I really haven't found one that's really hard coded, so I don't have much of the things to say on the resolution wise. But if that bothers you, if any of the apps bothers you with the resolution, there are ways that you can change how the apps look. You can swipe from the top, and there is size, and there's a full size. There's a full size that you would mainly use, and There is the zoomed one that's actually a little zoomed out. And there is a rectangular one for the games that are hard-coded. So most of the Android apps run just fine, and that's one of the good parts about the Classic, that it solves the lack of the apps. But here's the thing. So it's not the native Android device, so it's a very specs dependent because it's kind of an emulator in a sense. And the major problem with the Q10 was because it had an outdated processor, it didn't run the Android apps properly. And the BlackBerry Passport, on the other hand, with the Snapdragon 800, it ran pretty good Android processing. And Classic, being stuck in the 2-year-old processor, doesn't really do that well. But there's a little problem over here. But let's face with the other good parts of the BlackBerry Classic. First of all, its call quality is amazing. This is probably one of the best phones with the best call quality that I've ever used. Whether you're on your earphones or the receiver on the speakerphone, or even Bluetooth, it has spectacular call quality. And the second is obviously the obvious BlackBerry functions, including the Blackberry Hub over here. It has all your notifications at once. You can write, reply, forward, everything at once. And this is an amazing feature, along with the keyboard over here. That is amazing. So I did manage to put all the apps on the folders, but I really rarely use them because if I want to do anything, I can just start typing here. And if my BlackBerry doesn't fall into a lag like this, so this is a little problem with the processor. So myself in the home screen, I can just start typing and I can just launch an app directly. Or if you don't even want to do that, you can assign a shortcut over here. Let's say that there's a menu that you can assign shortcuts at speed dial. So you can assign what tap and hold is going to launch which app. So let's say L over here is a calendar. So I can just press and hold L. It's going to launch a calendar for me. So this is what takes advantage of a lot of keyboard over here. And the keyboard themselves are amazing too. Let's say that, let's go to notes. And we're going to type a note. Hey, this is the review of the BlackBerry Classic. This is what I can do with the keyboard. I'm pretty sure that there are better typers around, but this is what you can do with the keyboard. And those keys are obviously doing their job. The optical trackpad over here gets you to the point where you will rarely have to touch your screen. Starting from the notification bar and the little dots over here, and even to the camera, you'll barely have to use any of the screen because the keys actually do their job properly. And the one point with the BlackBerry app, the Android app, is that back in the old days, the Android apps on the BlackBerry Q10 required a little bar over here because the BlackBerry didn't have the back key. And you could have removed it by saying hide bar, but you would have to swipe over here to get back of the screen. Now this has a dedicated back key. So it doesn't have to take your screen, and you don't have to swipe here and there. There's just back key and the menu key. It's a lot easier for the Android apps. Alright, so the thing over here is that BlackBerry Classic is a two-mixed thing. It retains almost all of the classic BlackBerry aspects, including the toolbar over here, the nice-looking display, and an amazing sound quality, and the cameras even got better, and the Android apps work fine, but at the downside, this is a Snapdragon S4 device. I know you guys don't really including myself, don't really care about the specs that much. Dual core seems fine and 2 GB of RAM seems fine. But keep in note that this is an Android not running natively. So it will require a little bit more resources than the native devices do. And Snapdragon S4 doesn't seem to be enough to be running that. There's lags here and there, and even the native BlackBerry apps kind of lag. I've seen some of the bugs where screens are cut in half, and when I'm typing, you guys seen that a minute before when I'm typing, the BlackBerry Assistant doesn't really pop up quickly. The little kind of bugs are kind of disappointments. And the point over here is that BlackBerry Classic is a $450 device. For $450, you are getting a little sluggish Android running device with the natively BlackBerry app sluggish device. And along with the camera getting better and a little bit of pretty much everything getting better, is the performance isn't just there. It's running Android apps, but not perfectly. BlackBerry apps are great, but they're not more. They're not much of it. So why get a BlackBerry Classic? Because the keyboards and the toolbars are so amazing, and the sound quality and the sound quality, call quality, everything that you need is just there, except for the performance. Can you bear that? I'm not really sure. Is software update is going to make that better? I'm not really sure about that. If software update is going to get this better, this is totally recommendable despite its battery life. It's got a 2550 milliamps of the battery, but that wasn't quite enough for me. It only lasts about 3 to 3.5 hours on the Android side of the screen. That definitely is an upgrade, but was not enough. So battery and performances doesn't really seem to make the BlackBerry Classic perfect. But it was a very nice experience using a BlackBerry Classic. The toolbar and the keyboard and the call quality and basic phone aspect of side of the phone was amazing. So this fits right on your hand. It just works with your hand. It's amazing, except for the specs. The dual core just isn't enough to run the Android apps properly. Alright, so that was BlackBerry Classic. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We'll get back there very soon. Stay tuned.